I'd love to start by telling you a little bit about myself. I worked for 7 years as a television reporter on programs such as Working Lunch and Breakfast News. I was the agony aunt for a national broadsheet. I helped to produce relationship courses which benefited tens of thousands of people around the world. I'm a columnist for Psychology's magazine, and I'm a transformative coach, and I've also authored a book on relationships. The psychologist Oliver James once said, "All you need is love and a little bit of help from Sarah Abell." Now, let me stop there before I get too carried away. If all I tell you is my successes, I may or may not impress you. But if I want to connect with you, I need to do something different. I need to also share my vulnerabilities and my failures. So I'd like to start that introduction again. Hi. It's quite terrifying up here. There's a lot of you. My name is Sarah Abell. When I was 8, I was sent to a mainly boys' boarding school. I was miserable, and for the first 3 weeks, I would sob myself to sleep under the duvet. I soon learned that vulnerability wasn't okay, and neither, for that matter, was failure. When I was 21, my older brother died suddenly of an accidental overdose. I can remember what it was like to this day when I went back to university and the people that I thought were my friends would cross the road to avoid me. I didn't know how to process that grief, and I had no one to talk to about it. My husband, David, and I struggled to conceive for 5 years before our only son, Jed, was born 4 years ago yesterday. I love that little guy so much. But do you know, in the depth of the night, if I'm having dark fears, I worry that something awful will happen to him. And I lost that job on the national broadsheet. They told me they only needed one advice columnist, and they had Graham Norton. They didn't need me. I'm interested to know how you responded to those 2 introductions. Hands up if you felt more connected to me after the second. And hands up again if you wondered what kind of smug ego trip I was on with the first. It's okay, you can be honest. That's because when I edit who I am to only include the impressive bits, I fail to let you see who I really am. And it's like I erect a barrier between us. And that so often happens in a society that values success and performance and appearance. It can be a struggle to show up as we really are. I know for me, after my brother's death, it slowly dawned on me that what I had been doing was failing to relate authentically. Those years at boarding school had made me self-sufficient, capable, driven, socially adept, but totally unable to express my negative emotions or to experience true intimacy. I'd been living my life in black and white, but not in color. And I think that's why I'm so passionate now about helping other people build strong and authentic relationships. My mess has become my message. I surveyed 1,000 people, and I discovered that I'm not the only one who would love better connections. 64% of people said that they wished they spent more time with their closest friendships. 33% said they often felt lonely, a figure that rose to 59% for those who are single. And 97.5% of people said that their relationships could be improved. Asked how they wanted to improve them, most people said they wanted to spend more time with those closest to them and to go deeper in their relationships. One woman said that she longed to turn up as her real self, but she feared that if she did, she wouldn't be loved. One man said that he was often so busy that he never got to see his mates, and when they did get to go out, they never really got past the catching up phase. A young mother said she was so stressed and tired that she felt disconnected from her husband. And one man said that at work he would often get defensive, and when he did, he would lash out at his colleagues. He longed to be able to express his emotions better. And the truth is that some people go through their whole life without revealing their deep emotions to anyone. In the survey, a third of people said they struggled to be the real me. And half of the people said that when they were hurt or upset, they found it difficult to tell others. Asked what it means to have authentic relationships, people talk about vulnerability or getting real. One man said, "I think it's about being emotionally naked. I experienced that with my wife only, but I'd strip to my underwear with a few close friends." I'm wondering, would we like to strip to our underwear and get naked? Some of us are probably thinking, no way, I don't want to feel vulnerable and exposed. I know for me that I often think that. I worry about what other people might think. Perhaps they'll laugh at me, or reject me, or attack me. But also there's a part of me that longs to be known and seen for who I really am. Not for who I think I should be, or who I think other people might want me to be, but for myself. And so often that's the case. We long for deep connection, but we want protection. And it reminds me a little bit about hedgehogs. On a cold winter's night, a hedgehog will seek out other hedgehogs to keep warm. But because they're hedgehogs and they've got spikes on their back, they have a choice. Do they get close, stay warm, and get spiked? Or do they stay away, stay safe, and freeze? In 1851, the philosopher Schopenhauer came up with the hedgehog's dilemma, which I paraphrased a little there, to explain the human predicament. We long for intimate relationships, and yet we fear getting hurt and do all we can to protect ourselves. But what if those hedgehogs could take off their prickly coats? Wouldn't life be so much easier for them? We can learn a couple of things from hedgehogs, I think. First of all, don't even think about trying to cross the road if there's a car coming. And number two, if we want to get close to other people, we need to let down our defenses and dare to bear who we are on the inside. We won't want to get naked and take off our spikes with everyone. Most of us built our defenses for a reason, in response to past hurts or traumas. Some of us keep them long after we need them, though. And we won't want to get naked with everybody. It takes courage and discernment to know who we can trust. I know for me, I sought out safe people in my life. And it was with them that I started to feel comfortable risking being vulnerable and started to express my negative emotions. It's a process for me, and I know it's one that will take a lifetime. But I've spent 20 years studying authentic relationships. I've read hundreds of books, I've done research, and I've watched people who are much, much better at it than me. And I've noticed certain characteristics in the naked hedgehogs amongst us. They risk vulnerability. They're not afraid to talk about who they are, to share their fears and their failures and their hurts. They listen without getting defensive or attacking. They don't blame or shame. When they make mistakes, they apologize. And they focus on the person that's in front of them. They invest time in their closest relationships. And they don't put unrealistic expectations on themselves or on other people. We won't be able to do all of those things all of the time. I know there are plenty of times where I fail to relate authentically, but none of us is perfect. But I found that a great vision to aspire to. There are still times when I catch myself feeling disconnected from other people. But when that happens, I now know what's going on. Either I or the other person, or perhaps both of us, in that moment, are valuing our protection over connection. And I've got two questions I ask myself if that happens. One, how would I act differently if I was valuing connection over protection? And how would I act differently if I wanted the other person to feel more secure and able to value connection over protection? Probably the answer to both of those questions will involve taking off one or two of my spikes and daring to take a step closer. And then, in that moment, I know that I can build a greater connection with those people. When we dare to show up as ourselves, we offer other people in our lives the chance to show up as themselves, and that is an amazing gift. Authentic relationships are key to so much. Great leadership, good parenting, long-lasting love, even great sex, successful organizations, solid communities, and healthy societies. Our culture might tell us that we need to airbrush out our photos, or edit our posts, or put on our corporate masks, or protect number one. But actually, the opposite is true. If we really want to engage with people, if we want to make an impact, if we want to relate authentically, then we need to value connection over protection. We need to get naked, one spike at a time.